Welcome. This is part of a four-part series called Balanced Recruitment that IDRC is sharing. We feel like it's really important that states know how to do balanced recruitment, and this one is specifically focusing on how to work with farms, fisheries, forestry, and agribusinesses. My name is Jessica Castaneda. I work as the project director for IDRC. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. So this new series is part of a four-part training series. I don't know if you've listened to the other videos that we have, but there are four different areas that we really feel are totally essential for states to ensure are being covered with their ID&R efforts. So we've developed this four-part training series that covers each one of these areas, and we feel like states can really use these resources to review their current efforts, see if there are any additional areas that you want to expand and really focus on. So this idea of balanced recruitment is that we'll thoroughly canvass our whole areas, whether it's a small area with a school district or an entire state, depending on our role. And we'll really look at housing, covering and canvassing housing, working to recruit in the community and develop partnerships with the right agencies in the community to be able to get referrals and resources for families, developing partnerships and making sure that we're visiting farms, fisheries, forestry, things related to agribusiness also, as well as building partnerships and efforts with school systems. So balanced recruitment requires all four areas. There is not one that's more important than the other. All four are absolutely essential. And so this particular training is going to look at how to do those visits to farms, fishing, forestry, agriculture businesses that have qualifying, work there at any of those entities. We want to look at how you can really build a list of existing businesses in your state, how to prioritize when to visit them and to really determine if they have eligible families, how to organize once you find out where possible farms are, how to organize your time, your information, plan efficient and effective field days, think about how to really interview those managers and workers, and also some resources that we have on the IDRC website. So we know that agribusinesses are super important. And when we visit a job site, we can identify all the work that's performed there and see if it's possible, if there are possible eligible activities. So there is a direct connection between the work and the people performing it. And then we can conduct an interview to determine whether, the people that we're talking to are eligible for the program. So recruiters should actively, regularly research what's happening in their area to find out if there's new farms, if there's new entities that are coming in, if things are closing down, if droughts negatively affecting, or what impacts are directly impacting their agriculture in their area. Conversations with farm owners and workers will help you know about other job sites, housing, and other places that workers visit. But this research should be something that's ongoing that recruiters are aware of. So it says here, a successful recruiter knows about qualifying agricultural, fishing, forestry, and food processing in their area. They know which businesses outsource and which tend to hire migrant labor. Maybe they know if it's locally owned and it's just a mom and pop place that has a couple kids working for them, or is it a place that brings workers in? Maybe the work is seasonal. Perhaps there's a short turnover that brings people in for short periods of time. So a savvy recruiter really stays on top of that and is able to update and be aware of what's happening. So I have, some examples of, agriculture articles. It's important for recruiters to keep up with those kind of things that are happening in their areas. Then once you do find the farms, you want to know how to talk to the owners and the managers and the workers. You want to know really what's happening. Some examples are people at a processing plant can tell you where the birds are being raised so they can lead you to other places that you might want to reach out to. People in a milk parlor can tell you where cropping and harvesting field work is being done. A lot of times they know, where alfalfa or different things that they need for their dairy come from. And there might be other farms that are involved that also might have workers. People at a sawmill can tell you where logs are coming from. So not everything qualifies related to that, but maybe there is a part of it that you can figure out specifically where they're doing some cutting in that might possibly have a job that's eligible. So this slide has a whole lot of information, but the idea is you've got to figure out where, through this research, where these businesses are, be able to continually update your information. So in Tennessee, for example, we had a whole bunch of tobacco in a particular area, and then things changed and they moved to the county that was over. And so the next county over, and housing shifted. And this was in a 2 or 3 year period that we noticed that there was a lot of movement to a new county. So we had to track that and know that, well, this farm used to have it, and now this new farm. So there's a real reason for you to keep good information about your farms. And so Some of the things that states like to track are the name, the contact information, any websites, any social media accounts they have, contact information for the managers, where the work is actually done. Maybe the office is at a different place in the location where the work is conducted, what kind of industry it is, whether to show how it's eligible. Do they outsource the labor? Do they have H-2A? Do they have local workers that come and go? What's the approximate number of workers? And then other things as far as maybe the seasonality of the work or the best times of day to visit or who to approach or specific rules. These are all important things for you to be able to start gathering and then figuring out a way to organize. So you want to, whatever tool you're using, you want to make sure that you have a way to keep track of your visits, when you went to, who you spoke to, were there new contacts that you met, what did you learn, did you find anything when eligible, will they be hiring again, did they tell you to come back later? So some states will just keep that information in a Google Sheet or in a Microsoft Excel sheet, but you want to have some way that you can easily organize it. Personally, I'm a fan of Excel because I can then make a map out of it, or I can see it visually in another format. But you want to make sure that you gather that information and you have it in an organized fashion. Also, IDRC has a new agriculture data profile. And so this is something that can be very helpful to you to be able to see all of it in one place. And so I do have right here on the front of the IDRC website, you can see that. If you click on the agriculture portal, you can look on one of your states and then see all the information that we have. So we have, for some of our states, we have a list of all the farms that we were able to find for them. We have farm labor contractors, we have H-2A and H-2B information, also housing, mobile home parks. We have the meat and poultry inspection list. We have a hemp list if we're able to get that. Then we have some helpful websites for each state. And so you can access those as you need to. So that can be a very helpful resource. So, here's an example of what I just showed. So that you can see all of those kind of things. This exists for each state, and we encourage you to use those as it is helpful to you. Once you get also looking a little bit more at H-2A and H-2B, we do have those lists that we update monthly. It's also tied back to that portal that you can see right there. So another side thing that's really important is to use Google. So, things are, if one thing is constant about agriculture, it's that it keeps changing. And so you can use Google to kind of set alerts to give you specific news that you want to know, maybe farm worker news from Oregon or whatever state you want. You can set up, you can go to google.com/alerts, set up that alert, and it'll send you an email when there's any sort of information related to the topic that you requested. Another thing that could be really helpful to try to find more farms and agribusiness in your state would be to work with the USDA Agriculture Extension offices. So the USDA partners with universities in every state to host the Agriculture Extension and Co-op offices. They work to train and educate farmers in the area, engage the local community, and it's a great place for you to start and talk to them. When they offer trainings for farmers, a lot of times they'll let you set up a table. They also have a really good pulse on what's happening in agriculture in your area. There also is the Farm Service Agency, and they also track agriculture data across the country. They provide farmers with a lot of information. And so they often have data that we can get to know more about what's happening in our areas with farms. And so this can be another, really important, way to reach out and find more about your farming community. One of our favorite search engines is manta.com. It's a national directory of local businesses, and you can search and find farms, dairies, and listings. And so one hint is when you go to Google, just type in Manta agriculture, state of Georgia, and then it'll give you a listing of all the agriculture it has. So right here, you can see on this side, they've got a listing of the kind of things that it could have for if you do a large, wide search for a particular state. It also includes the address, the contact information of the business, the number of employees, and the annual revenue of the company, which can be really helpful. You can see if it looks like they're going to have very many workers. There also is which is also on the agriculture portal, there is a foreign labor contractor list. And so these are guys that are females that bring in workers specifically to work in farm work. And so they have their contact information. You can actually reach out and get it specifically for your area and be able to reach directly to those contractors. Included also in the portal, the agriculture portal, is the USDA meat, egg, and poultry processors list. And so this is the site where we get that information. And you can basically, these are the places that have recently been inspected by the USDA. So they may or may not qualify in that depending on if there's enough initial processing work in these places, but it's a great place to figure out where your processors are in your state. So one of the most common mistakes that we see that recruiters make while conducting research is they get information of a potential farm. And then when you go to show up, it happens to be a house. And they think, no, this is not a farm. Well, sometimes many small businesses don't have a separate office, and it may literally be a residential house. And so you can go up to the door and say, hey, I'm looking for Gonzalez Farms, and I thought this was where it might be. A lot of times they can tell you where it is, or they themselves might be tied to the business. And so you want to make sure that you don't make assumptions. Want to make sure also that you're prioritizing. Sometimes it can be overwhelming and you see this huge list of all the possible farms, but maybe a bunch of them only have 1 or 2 workers. So you want to know how you can prioritize. So it says here, after systematically visiting the farms in your list, use good criteria to plan how often you should visit. Are they seasonal versus temporary? Do they have turnover? What's the number of size of workers? How much wages are paid, or quality of housing, or other factors that might promote the stability or worker turnover? And then you can kind of organize those to figure out how many of them you might want to visit each week, or bi-monthly, or every 3 months, or so just kind of organize the information that you have and kind of make a plan. So in addition to establishing a plan, you want to kind of, in that process of establishing a plan, you want to look at when's the season of when the work is going to be done. Did you have any referrals of people possibly working there? What's the number of workers? How safe is the location? Can you go by yourself, or do you need to bring other people? So you want to have a really good, well thought out plan of how to work with those agribusinesses. And it'll be a lot easier to build those relationships when you know how to, when you need to be at these places and how often and those kind of things. So like it says here, to begin creating your plan, you should look for the required frequency of the visit you establish for each farm and when the farm's crops are in season. Go to your calendar, mark what farms you would like to visit each month, prioritize those, figure out how often you need to go, and make sure that you track good data when you go. So good data could be, when you're going, you want to try to think about the things that you want to know about the place. So what time does the workday begin? When are shift changes? When do employees go out to lunch? When is the best time to speak to someone? It says here, it's important to respect the time of those who are working at the farm or agribusiness, and make sure you're not interfering with their work that's being done. So you want to find the time that works for both them and the supervisor. So remember that when we most need to speak with agribusinesses is probably, and farms is when they're probably the busiest. So some people call ahead you can call ahead once you already have a relationship built with them. It's kind of hard to call ahead if they don't know who you are. A lot of times they can just shut you down and say, hey, we don't want you to come. That's why visiting agribusinesses during an off season can be very helpful when they're not busy, and that gives you a chance to explain why it would be beneficial to work together. And you can use that off season to build up trust and a strong relationship that later on can make it way easier when you can get in when they're busy. So think about who you need to talk to, who would be that strategic person. You don't want to just talk to one of the workers and say, hey, can I talk to the other workers? And they're not really the person that should have gave you permission. So for a lot of businesses, it's the owner, it's the manager. You want to make sure, if it's an agribusiness, it might be the human resource director. Make sure that you're talking to the right person to be able to get in. And then once you know where you're supposed to go, you can really kind of make a visual map. For example, this is a Google map of a particular state that has a whole bunch of different farms out there. And you can organize a visual place of where you're going to go, and you can kind of see. It says farms. You can also organize it by priority of which businesses are in the same area. What's the last date that you visited? What's the turnover? You can look at the seasons. You can look at what's going on and try to prioritize so when you're out. Then once you get there, you want to make sure that you're thinking about the farm's needs. You're standing there, you're talking to them. You want to make sure that you know the kind of things that you can offer, the kind of things that they might find helpful. So possible needs, like it says here, is do workers have knowledge about available local resources? Do workers need help learning English? Are the workers interested in obtaining a GED or some other high set or some other type of, having some sort of materials that would help them learn? Maybe it's job related. Maybe they need more language related to the specific job or job training. Are workers struggling to come to work because of lack of childcare? Is there some sort of resource in the community that you can help share with them so that they know? Do they need help translating training materials? Do they need COVID-19 safety materials? These are all things that you can have in your mind that you can ask and maybe try to present resources that might help with the farm's needs. So some ways that you can meet the needs of the farmers might be to be able to provide a list of available resources in the area, such as food banks, medical services, Head Start programs, and other childcare services. You can provide free English learning materials. You can provide possible teaching through virtually to help someone with their GED or HiSET. If your state allows, you could do some translation training to help them if they need some sort of training from other agriculture agencies or entities. And you could also provide those masks or materials. So in addition to the agriculture portal that we mentioned too, we also have on the website, let me go back to the IDRC website, we also have another portal that is called our resource portal. The resource portal lists different agencies in the community that have resources that might be beneficial to the migrant community. And so these are lists that you can share. This could be something that might be helpful for farmers to be able to see some of those resources for their workers. So those are the kind of things you want to have thought out beforehand, and you're aware of those, and you can think about how you can explain the program and help the farmer see the benefit in working with you. So building trust and relationships with business. You do all this work to figure out where they are. You want to be able to have the right kind of conversations with them when you get there. So sometimes you want to ask a lot of questions, sometimes you don't, but some things that you might want to ask, maybe not all of these, but just kind of pick and choose what would be appropriate. What kind of jobs do they do? Who does those jobs? Are they from local? Do they come and go? Are they from other places? Is the work seasonal? Do the workers stay on the job very long? How many people do they employ? Do they have housing? And I would never ask all these questions at one time, but these are things to think about that you could ask. When is a good time to meet up with the workers? That would be an essential question. What's the best contact information and address for the location if you're going to follow up? And can you speak with people while they're working, or would they, rather that you don't do that? So it says here, when making contact, be persistent in your efforts and always, always, always follow up. If you're able to speak to someone at the farm, maybe they tell you, hey, come back in a couple of days, then come back in a couple of days. Don't forget. Maybe they give you permission, but it's not for a couple of days. Don't forget that either. For some reason you're struggling with who you're speaking to, you might have to go to someone above, or if it's the owner themselves, then you might have to try to figure out a different way to talk to the workers, maybe where they live or through a community agency. So sometimes you're not going to be able to get onto the farm and really talk to them. Building trust with workers, then you get, let's say the farmer lets you in, the manager lets you in, now you have the worker in front of you. You want to make sure that they know who you are, why you're there. You want to make sure that you have a good explanation. You want to make sure you have the right body language, that you can see, you can also watch their body language, see if now's not a good time, if you need to try a different time later on. Explain thoroughly what you're doing, follow through on what you promise, whether you're promising to visit or give them different materials or send a copy of the COE, make sure that you follow up. And then also make sure that those that would provide them services, if they are eligible, do follow up once the enrollment is complete. Make sure that you are really able to engage the farm workers. They will really only engage with you usually if you engage with them first. Don't be nervous, say hello, start conversations. Always keep a smile and remain positive, stay focused on talking to them, even if there's a lot of things that may be distracting. Make sure you have something in your hands that they would find beneficial to receive, so you're not just walking in empty-handed. And every now and then, someone will come that really does not want you there, and they'll kick you out. And so you want to make sure that you know kind of how to handle those situations, that you don't escalate it, that you're able to kind of get out of that. And remember that you're rarely the issue. Working on a farm involves long hours. It can be very stressful. There's a lot of different impacts that are directly affecting farmers. And so most likely it's another stress factor that's really getting to them. So just try not to return that aggression. Try to stay calm and respond positively. And you may need to just get out of the situation as quick as possible. But you do want to have a plan if it's something that's just not working and you want to just kind of move on from the situation. So it says here, when you get home, evaluate the situation, analyze what happened, plan for a new communication strategy that can help you avoid similar situations or de-escalate them in the future. So while you're there, as long as they're still allowing you to be around there, you want to make sure that you speak directly with the owner and with the workers, and then you can think of different ways that you can provide, information to them. Maybe you put flyers on cars. Maybe you have a self-referral form. Maybe they have a referral tool or employment survey that you put in place there. Maybe you hang materials in the porta potties or in the bathrooms. Maybe you're able to get an actual name of people that are eligible, and maybe use the referral tool that IDRC has that for possible eligible people in the future. So IDRC does have a referral tool that's available to all. You can find it on the front of our website. I'll go ahead and pull that up just so that you can see that. On the front of the website, if you scroll down, once I get there, you see here it says, do you know someone who might qualify? They click on here, there is a referral form. You can just share this link. You can also share it in different languages, but you can share this link and then they can fill out if they think someone might possibly be eligible. And so that is available for all states, free. As soon as the survey is filled out, and it will send a notification to the recruiter that's assigned to the area. Unless your state doesn't have any of that set up, then it'll sent to IDRC staff and we can notify a state. So with the tool, we also have some brochures on that same page. Let me see if I can go back to that just so that you can see. On the front page, there's a thing that says referral tool resources. If you click on it, we have some brochures over here on the side. And so you can access those as you need them. And so we encourage states to use those and to share those pamphlets and information to possible farm owners or someone that might know if someone's eligible. So you can also share that with other places you're in the community so that they can refer families. And so this is a helpful tool that can be out there. So we really encourage you to make sure that you're using all 4 areas. You're really canvassing, housing. You're also looking at community partnerships and community recruiting, schools, and farms and agribusiness. And so as you do that, you'll be able to ensure that you truly are doing balanced recruitment, and hopefully you'll be able to find all the families that are eligible. So we thank you for your time and encourage you to listen to or use some of the other balanced recruitment resources if you haven't accessed those already. Thank you.